So many years ago, a lot of people might not know that a number of people in this barony actually hail from the Outlands. Owen, myself, Connor, the Ely, there are a bunch of us that actually come from the Outlands. So a number of years ago, this is before I even donned my first heavy suit, and I was fighting for the Outlands at an Estrella. Actually, I wasn't even fighting because I wasn't in my heavy suit. This was after the fencing scenarios. But I got to watch the heavy scenarios. It was one of those things that inspired me to get into heavy. They called the lay-on. Scenario was that Aidenvelt was coming from this side, Outlands was coming from the same side, but they had to come around a horseshoe in a mountain pass. And the idea was to hold the majority of the mountain pass. So Aidenvelt, always having the numbers, their strategy was to march and just inevitably take them. Outlands, always being outnumbered, sent skirmishers forward. So they called the lay-on, and there are these four incredibly brave, or stupid, I don't know, but incredibly brave warriors who go sprinting out in front of the Outlands army. And they collided with the Aidenvelt line, maybe a third into the Aidenvelt march. And one of those warriors was Connor. This is kind of my introduction to heavy fighting. I could see Connor go around the bend with his three compatriots, one of whom went slamming into the Aidenvelt line, and I'm not kidding you, went about 5 ranks deep into the Aidenvelt line. And I thought that dude was dead. But just a moment later, he stands up, and he's like wailing around himself with his stick. It was just one of those like glowing moments. This shaft of light pierced through the clouds that don't exist in Arizona and shine down on this hero as he got completely enveloped by the numbers of the Aidenvelt. But it was beautiful in the moment. Either way, Connor and 2 other guys were there, and they stopped the Aidenvelt line. The Aidenvelt line actually stopped because the 3 of them were there and made it so quickly. But then Aidenvelt got their nerve back, and they did their inevitable march forward, and they marched right over Connor and his 2 heroes. Well, there goes Connor. So the scenario goes on, and they had held the Aidenvelt line long enough that the Outlands army could catch up, and we held the majority of the line for a while. But as always happens, the numbers tended to win out. So eventually the Outlands got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. But at that point, they changed strategy. They had obviously had all this planned out. So they changed strategy and they started to retreat. But they had skirmishers to cover their retreat. And I am not kidding. As the Outlands army peeled back from the Aidenvelt army, there were 3 guys there who stood up to the Aidenvelt line and made them stop so the Outlands could pull back. And one of those guys was Connor. I couldn't believe that he'd been rolled over by that Aidenvelt line and was still around. This was a non-res scenario. Cool. So to see him still there and protecting that line, and then to give his life, as it were, to stop the Aidenvelt advance so that the Outlands could get back.
That was one thing about Estrella. Aidenvelt always had the numbers. Outlands always had the heart.
Oh, man.
And maybe a few fewer brain cells.
Maybe. There was a time that Connor and I slammed into the Aidenvelt line. I mean, we took that entire half of the wall. They had a wall that had a tower at one end and a tower at the other. It was an objective battle. There were 3 objectives. There were the 2 towers, and it was the middle of the wall. And they gave us, the Naroon contingent, and there were like 5 of us. They gave us the job of taking that first tower. It was me and Connor, and I don't know. There were 3 other guys behind us. I don't remember who they were. But they sent us out full sprint. And when we hit that line, Connor, I don't know how it happened, but Connor was in front of me. I don't know how he was faster than I was. But Connor made it out in front of me, and he collided with the guy, ended up with a concussion from the collision. But then the fact that we were there first allowed us to take and hold that tower for the rest of the time. It's awesome.
You know why he was out in front of you? Because if you'd have been behind you, when you fell down, you'd have wiped him out.
That's true. That's what I do.
Or it would have lost it laughing.
As I peeled off of it.
Just thought I'd throw that in there for
Thank
some
you.
of our earlier
Appreciate that.
conversations.